Before we maybe get started very briefly, so Ralph Radisys and then Ian from Goshawk. Briefly, your role at Radisys. I think everybody knows Radisys. You have been on stage yesterday with your colleagues, so I guess they know what's your role in Radisys?
Yeah, so Ralph Page, I'm sales in Europe, but I've been focused on sales and business development for our Engage CPaaS platform around the world. And relevant to this conversation, the last 12 months or so, I've had the privilege of working with Radisys and the wider telecoms community to understand how a lot of the innovation that we've been talking about can actually be applied in the area of accessibility and digital inclusivity.
Okay. Ian, how strange do you feel in this group of people? Because this is not your home industry.
No, originally I was planning to join the telco industry when I graduated, but unfortunately there was a recruitment lull at that time. So I've come roundabout through aerospace, automotive, and then eventually ended up after some consulting period in telco as the CEO of this startup. Yeah, okay. Very interesting.
Well, what is the field? Where are you active in?
We're all about solving a fundamental problem that all of you will encounter during your lives. You all have parents, you all have people in your families that are aging, and some of them may already have some diagnosed difficulty with their hearing, some frequency loss of some kind. And what we are doing through our technology is personalizing voice. Rather than having a vanilla phone call that is not useful to everybody, we are able to take the device, the network performance, and the individual's individual hearing ability.
Okay. Let's not get too far ahead of it. We don't want to know everything yet. Step by step. Okay, hearing, you said issue. Yes, I guess I know a couple of people who have hearing issues. What does it mean for a person to have a hearing aid and a phone call? What's the challenge?
They may not have a hearing aid, so let's start there. Hearing is a spectrum.
Yes.
There will be many people in this room that have different hearing to each other, all the way from a mild hearing loss that's undiagnosed through to some people that may be wearing hearing aids. It's a problem that affects 1 in 5 people, according to the World Health Organization at the moment, and by 2050 it'll be 1 in 4.
1 in 4, 25%.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to understand how, what I've learned is how that affects people in their daily lives. And I'm going to use my father a lot in this conversation because he's a perfect example. He's in his 80s, his hearing's going. Took me 10 years to get him to go and get a hearing aid. It drove me nuts. And his answer was always, I can't hear you on this stupid phone. Because it wasn't his fault, it was the phone's fault. Yeah. An example I'll give you about digital inclusivity is the doctors in the UK recently said, we're now going to actually triage patients. Before you get an appointment, you have to talk to the nurse. It's a great idea, right? So they have more, that only the important people get to talk to the doctors. I then noticed he wasn't getting his medicine. Why? Because he didn't want to talk to the nurse. And I said, Dad, where's your medicine? He says, I couldn't talk to the nurse on this stupid phone. That's how this affects people. So it's really important.
I have another one. My granddad used to save the battery because the batteries were so expensive on his hearing aid.
From a personal point of view, maybe 2 short stories. Our founder, Matthew Turner, was born with severe to profound hearing loss, and his concept was, let's try and put the hearing aid in the cloud or in the sky, and that's where the technology was born from. And from a personal use case, my wife has something called Meniere's disorder, which is starts with a balance issue and then progresses into tinnitus and severe hearing loss. She now wears hearing aids. But even with those hearing aids, conversation is difficult.
Yeah.
I can be sat at the table with 2 slices of toast in front of me and say, please can you pass me the butter? And if I'm not facing her, she'll turn around and say, why do you want a putter? Yeah. Now, I've never played golf, so I don't know where putter comes from, but that's just the way the brain works, trying to interpret voice. It's very, very difficult. It's very tiring. Exhausting for people with hearing loss to try and keep up with a conversation. And one of the problems you'll find is that those people then have struggled so hard to understand what you're saying, they've then not had the ability to retain the information. So again, hooking on Ralph's example there about the medical information, if you go and see the doctor and you've struggled to hear maybe 6 in every 10 words that he said, by the time you come out of the doctor's appointment, you won't remember what he said.
Yeah, yeah. Let's assume, because we have 1 out of 5 today. probably not for all of them your solution is relevant. Some of them have hearing aids, maybe some of them it's still early stages, but there's a big enough problem that's worthwhile to be solved. How do you solve it?
We have two parts to the technology. We partnered with professor in Cambridge University, one of the world's top 3 in hearing issues, and also one in Manchester University. So Dr. Stone there has audio processing algorithms based on a lot of experience with hearing aids. And we have a measurement system from Cambridge University where we've basically taken a very short test, taking into account the phone and the ability of the individual to hear, and we then create an individual profile. And then we match that profile and work with Radisys to integrate that into the network, into the call.
Okay. Clarity, it's called. Tell us, how does it work and where the operator comes into play? So how does it, that collaboration, and how does it fit in here?
So what I love about this is you may have seen me talk up here before in the last couple of years. And my big thing is, from a sales and marketing perspective, perhaps rather than technology, was I was always saying, let's get outside of our comfort zones of contact centers and things like that. Let's go find other stuff. Let's find out why the hotel concierge can't do his job. Let's find out what's going on in the hospitals. And these guys come along, and immediately when they talked to me, I was like, our CPaaS platform can help this and put it in the operator's network. And the key point, just to add to what Ian said, this is about the clarity of the conversation. I don't care about whether they can hear an airplane coming past or there's a bicycle behind them. I just want them to be able to hear, so when they're talking to that doctor on their phone, they can understand the words. So
essentially what it does is, so I take the quick test, so
3 minutes.
3 minutes, and it's an app, or how does it work?
It's a web-based portal.
It's a web-based portal.
A profile in the.
Okay, so I'll go to the operator and says there's part of the onboarding. Yes, I want to have clarity. Which is it just for people with a hearing aid, or sometimes network connectivity?
Let's go back one step. Hearing, you may or may not have a hearing aid.
Yeah.
If you have hearing ability issues, you may or may not have a device. You may have a cochlear implant.
Yeah.
Whatever the device is, or whether you use no device, or even if you have normal hearing, you can take this test. It will assess your device and hearing ability and recommend a profile based on how you conducted the test. Mm-hmm. So after 3 minutes, that profile is unique to you. It's like a fingerprint of how you will hear.
Are there any feedbacks or tests that it's really better? So I don't know, have you done large customer tests, consumer tests, saying, hey, hundreds of people, and then I give it a 93 rating or something?
We've done clinical trials that have done that and demonstrated that, and also Ralph's got some new data.
Yeah, so let me answer to your last 2 questions, so it's important to understand. So what have we actually done from a telecoms point of view? I'll quickly pull it back. So one unique thing to understand about our Radisys platform is it's not so much a service, like a CPaaS service. We actually provide a platform for service providers to put in their network to take advantage of the CPaaS capabilities. So, for example, you heard Adnan talking yesterday about we can do live translation on a native call. So we have a native call capability. What these guys need is they work out the profile for the customer, so they know that you've got a hearing issue and that you need your sound to be adjusted slightly, like in a certain way, to understand the words. And our MRF, so we have a piece of kit that's relatively unique, I would say, in CPaaS platforms, which we can actually manipulate the media in that manner. Yeah. So that's how we're able to do that. And in terms of clinical trials, so Ian and his team have obviously tested and done clinical trials which have been published on their piece of kit. And we recently did some trials with the All India Institute of Speech and Hearing. And they've published, or they're about to publish it, but I've got a pre-version of it that I'm happy to share with people that actually shows that how effective this is for mild, medium, and even in some cases severe hearing loss.
Okay. So we have a problem very worthwhile to be solved. We have 2 players coming together, we can solve it. You need the service provider. Yep. How do you convince the service provider? As we heard, they are slow and tedious and difficult. What's the story to the service provider?
I guess this was the fundamental problem with our business. It was trying to approach as a very small company how to get through the gateway of an M&O to say, please, will you take this service and integrate it? And the barriers that we faced there were quite significant. And by working with a partner that already has that experience with a layer in the network in the IMS, we were able to overcome a lot of that. So we're now moving forward, I think, at a greater pace than we could have done alone. And that's maybe one of the things I think came out of the last conversation that you had on the platform about difficulties of working with the partners and sort of everybody individually trying to tackle things. By going for this layer, we've kind of re-engineered our business model to approach it very differently.
Yeah, okay. Well, what's the feedback from the service providers you get? So
Yeah.
like, yes, this is what we've been waiting for, let's go ahead.
Yeah. As ever with service providers, I think the answer is to understand how service provider politics works. So I would say everyone who hears about it, and hopefully the people who are hearing about it now go, oh, that's a really interesting idea. But where's the money, okay? So accessibility is a huge thing at the moment all around the world, not just in Europe. I mean, there are actually laws about accessibility that are coming into place. There are teams of people who are responsible for digital inclusivity. And as we start adding all of the capabilities and, voice starts growing, it's going to get harder. It's their responsibility to meet that requirement. And I get two different reactions, and they're quite funny in the way they work. I get one guy who says, brilliant, how much can I charge? And he just wants to make money. And we can talk a little bit about the commercials in a minute. I get the other guy who says, okay, I might want to be the company for people with hard of hearing, or maybe I'm doing, a common one is we want to focus on an elder package, which includes fraud detection, which includes clarity and a number of things. And they will offer the services as an inclusive part of the service, but that's kind of how people, I think, look at it at the moment.
Yeah. Have you done consumer acceptance? Because hearing is a very sensitive topic, right? And I think you mentioned it before. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to ask again. Hey, sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't understand, right? So it gets very personal. So if I now go to them and say, now you need to charge and you get clarity. Have you done acceptance of the user willingness to pay specifically? And I'll be very straight. They'll go, my dad would never pay for that one because he would expect the operator to do it. It's like, oh, no. So have you done it?
So I'll give you what you just said is what everyone says at first. And they look at it from a person, I would argue, who's not hard of hearing. Oh, yeah, they wouldn't pay for that, or, they'd want it included. Turn it around the other way. I say to my dad, your phone costs you £20 a month. For an extra £5, you're going to be able to use that phone. Would he pay for it? Absolutely. It's actually the unwillingness sometimes of the operators to want to charge for it that's a bigger problem, I think, than the people who want to pay for it. And I think you would agree with that?
I think so, yeah. I think it's not necessarily a churn problem where people will leave the network to go to another one because it's not out there in enough places yet. But it's probably a silent abdication of using the service and gradually withdrawing.
Yeah.
And what Goshawk is all about is about connecting people. It's about maintaining those relationships and about being human. And ultimately, a telco is about connecting people. It's about sharing information, thoughts, and love for one another. And if that's broken and we can mend it, I think it's a great step forward.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. We want to create impact here, right? So we want to create that impact. So just implementation, you briefly touched about it again. So what does the operator exactly need to do in order to launch Clarity?
Yeah, so it's actually relatively straightforward, believe it or not. So because of our background in being in the IMS network, so our MRF is in about 70% of networks around the world, we already are not only able to connect into IMS networks, we're trusted to connect into IMS networks already. So all they have to do is set a flag in the HSS that says Ralph uses Clarity. For every single incoming call or outgoing call that I make, the HSS will just tell the CSF to route the call to our solution, which is in the operator's network. So all of the regulatory questions you're thinking and things like LI are handled. We will then apply the profile that the system has told us we have to apply. We route the call back to the network. They complete it. So it's literally treated essentially as a value-added service, which has already been implemented in many ways for other services. So very simple to do. I would say the long pole is actually the website. You have to, obviously, when I go, let's say it was Vodafone, if I go onto Vodafone's website, I need to be able to sign up. And as we all know, getting a website change done in an operator is actually harder probably than, I don't know, building a new car from wood.
And now make it more complicated. Now you want to change the app even. That's the next story.
Exactly.
Questions from the audience? Yes, please, the gentleman. If we can have the speaker box, maybe. And switch that one on. Thank you, Mas.
Am I live?
Yes, you're live.
You never know how close I have to hold these. Hey, a couple things. Really exciting topic. Radisys is a fantastic media resource for this topic. Two quick observation thoughts. One is one of the other selling points, the compute power in the cloud, in the that's to do the Fourier transforms, to do that speech transformation. You're able to deliver a higher quality audio to the end user than hearing aids is able to produce. So the compute power is going to exceed what a hearing aid is going to be able to do. So it further propagates how good a phone call can be, to the point that they would prefer to talk on the phone often than even face-to-face based on experience that I've had. The second is to take it, much of your description here, which I think is an amazing product, is a subscriber service through the carrier operators. From a CPaaS or CCaaS or UCaaS perspective, you have a different set of thoughts, I think, that come in, which is as an employer employing agents in a contact center, tremendous value in improving the clarity so your agents, often who are going to be older, hearing aids, going to have a better ability to hear and understand the customer, along with any other acoustics like drowning out background noise. So I think it brings in greater ability for agents in their support of the customer, huge value there, or for just the general employees promoting that communication by eliminating the barriers to internal company or out to customer communications has a tremendous business thing. So there might be a different sales tactic that a UCaaS, CCaaS might take into the enterprise versus your use case, which is out to the end subscriber.
Very interesting. But the UCaaS integration, so do you see this is it on the plan or is it part of it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the sort of the first target was absolutely the subscriber, because we felt that it has to be. I don't want my dad just to be able to hear the nurse at the doctor's. I want him to be able to hear me, the bank, whatever, right? So then we got asked about UCaaS, and I think for the operator model, that's fine because we control how the call comes into the contact center. We understand the individual agents who need that assistance, and we can route the call via our system to give exactly that. The UCaaS one is a bit of a challenge, if I'm totally honest, and the reason is in my company, we use Teams. So I need to be able to do that in Teams. Now, there are ways we can do it. So, and this is what I'm going to now say, I need to reach out to the wider telecoms industry. As long as we can get the call looped through our system, we can do it. Now, will Microsoft Teams allow that? It could be done. Whether with their agreement, which means they could stop it, is a problem. So that's my honest answer is, can we technically do it? Absolutely. We need a little bit of help from the guys who are real experts in those PBX replacements, those UCaaS solutions to achieve that.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for your question. Sorry, we're just answering his question. There's a couple of points. One, from a point of view of in the workplace, there are advantages to using a network-based solution rather than providing additional accessibility equipment, the cost, the maintenance, the replacement and damage of that, and also then the cost of retaining staff. So, for example, I've seen banks where people have been in customer-facing roles and then have had sudden onset hearing loss and then have lost their positions and not been able to continue. So we have a use case there for companies to be able to support their employees for longer and keep them engaged. It's quite an emotive area for those employees that then are affected by that.
Mike,
Sorry.
I think you have a question or comment.
It was more of an observation, actually. And you talk about the kind of those cloud environments. I think there's a whole load of cloud-based sort of telco property. Look at Operator Connect or CCP from Cisco. That's probably where you would leverage that sort of conversation, because all of those programs are the intersect between the telco and the cloud platforms. And from what you're saying there, it needs to be done in the telco network. You're not going to get those guys to open up their kind of applications. Although you can build apps, right, which is the other way you would do it. You'd build an app into Teams and Cisco and deliver it that way. So it was more of an observation of that model does exist, but it's really interesting use case, I think, for that, because one of the big challenges and we're on both of those programs, differentiation is probably the biggest challenge, because all of the value is driven out the application, right? The telco's left to do the bits around the side, and I think this is a really interesting bit around the side that drives more value for a telco than your traditional minutes and DIDs and that sort of stuff. So that would really just be my observation based on, we play in that market where we're on all of those programs.
Thank you, Mike. Fantastic. We've come to an end. Big round of applause to those two gentlemen, and all the best, because I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Ian. Catch up with them. And we made it to lunch. Big round of applause to all of us that we made it. I hope you had a great first half of the second day. Enjoy the lunch. We meet here at 1:30. A little bit of more time to network, to mingle, and collaborate. Thank you.